we continue our discussion. The Alter Rebbe goes now back to what was in chapter 38. There we spoke about the two basic ways that you can have a love and awe of God. The two basic ways was the mind bringing out the love that we have that produces that love and awe of appreciating, understanding, knowing about God and your relationship with God and God's relationship to the world. And then there's also that love and awe that's not coming from the fact that we produce it, we create it, but there's an inherent love that we have, an inherent awe that we have, because our soul, after all, is a part of God. So therefore, it's there. It just needs to be revealed. So it's not a palpable feeling. It isn't that, but it is what we call the hidden love that becomes revealed. So we return to this discussion now. And the Alter Rebbe explains as follows. Schar mitzvah mitzvah. What's the reward of the mitzvah? What's the reward? What is the mitzvah itself? What does that mean? Well, when someone is a laborer, works for somebody, right? And that person is working for, making $20 an hour, right? For whatever labor it is. The money that they're making is not a direct consequence of their work, right? Not a direct consequence. It's an indirect consequence. You do such and such work, you'll get, $20 for the hour. Fine. Beautiful. Here we're talking about that what we labor in the mitzvah is a direct consequence, the reward. So the reward of the mitzvah is the experience of the mitzvah, the experience of godliness in our soul when we perform the mitzvah. That's the fruit of the mitzvah itself. That array of light of God is emitted by the mitzvah that we fulfill. Like right now, we're doing the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, the study of Torah. What's the reward? Is the connection. And experiencing that connection. So, explains further. Now, from the nature of the reward, you can kind of know the nature of that mitzvah. In other words, the light that's generated by the mitzvah, that's revealed in our soul, is the reward. Now, just because we might not be experiencing it, it's because we're not so soulful, so we're not so connected with our soul, so we're not experiencing right now necessarily on how our soul is, being ignited by a light of God in our study over here. But it is. But from being aware of what that light that's generated by the mitzvah, right, it's going to give us an understanding of the mitzvah itself that we performed, that generated that light. Because remember, it's a direct consequence. If I'm making $20 an hour, you won't know from that if I was sweeping the floor, I was cutting vegetables, I was in a kitchen, working in a kitchen, or I was, driving, an Uber, whatever, right? You wouldn't know. Why? Because the reward of the $20 an hour, well, maybe you would know I'm not a rocket scientist, probably making more, right? But you wouldn't know what I was doing. But here, the reward is a direct consequence of the mitzvah itself. The light of God that we produce is a direct consequence of the act. So therefore, if I understand the reward, I'll understand what was done. I'll understand that mitzvah because it's a direct consequence. Now, the Alter Rebbe continues and says we're not going to concern ourselves with what he calls hidden matters, meaning the great righteous people on their level, as we spoke previously of the level of a chariot, that they are their souls coming from the world of Atzilus, emanation of God. It's such a lofty connection that they are complete, every limb of their body. Meaning, when we say every limb of the body, it means the soul for sure is bound up with God, but the physical body, that every move of these great righteous people is an expression of divinity. Just a move like, going like this is an expression of divinity, taking their hand and over their beard. It's not just taking their hand and putting over the beard, which is for me. I feel a little itchy here, so I go like that. No, that's not what it is for them. Every limb, that's a pretty powerful thing. So that's already hidden stuff. The Alter Rebbe says we're not going there, right? That transcends our understanding. Well, not the Alter Rebbe because he was that, but for us, that he wants to inspire us. But we're going to do about revealed matters, what every person can aspire to and should aspire to. This is the divine service. We need to know with certainty the essential nature and the rank of the divine service that comes as a result of the awe and love of God that's revealed in the heart. How's that derived? Where's the love and awe of God derived from? When you have an understanding and knowledge of the greatness of the Ein Sof of God himself. Right, which he said earlier is the reward when we have the light that we get of this divine service, of such a love and awe of God, is the world of Bria. In other words, so where does this mitzvah rise to? To the 10 divine attributes in the world of Bria, the world of creation, the highest of the 3 created worlds. On the other hand, a service that's motivated, right, by a natural love and awe of God, meaning hidden in our soul, that's covered over with a body and an animal soul, right, that we have to allow it to emerge, but it's also hidden in the fact that it's in your mind and not experienced in your heart. But you have a mental awareness of this inborn love and awe of God. And that's what motivates you. So what's the reward? Is that your mitzvah that you do, for example, right now, if that's what's motivating us, is that, hey, I have this inborn love and awe of God, and I want to express it by serving Him, by doing a mitzvah, by doing the mitzvah of now study Torah, or giving charity, or praying, or whatever it is, right? So then, that action, it will be rewarded. That mitzvah will have its place in the 10 divine attributes of the world of Yetzirah, lower world of formation, world of divine midas, divine attributes, emotive attributes. However, if a person is doing divine service without arousing any love and awe of God into at least one's mind, in other words, being mindful, right? That's the second level that we just spoke about, the world of Yetzirah, right? The hidden love that we have. Hidden love means that it's part of the soul. The soul is bound up with God, and that's its reality. And we're aware of it. And that's our driving force. But if it's not that, right? That one has that mindfulness, meaning it's done without arousing the natural love that's hidden in one's heart, right? That it emerges at least into a mindfulness, but it remains just latent, so to speak, there. Right? No mental resolve to cleave to God through doing a mitzvah. So it remains in your heart in its native state, not emerging, not revealed, right? As it was before you did your divine service, as of studying. So in other words, if you were in the same state before, eating breakfast, and then you come to learn, it's just going, from one thing to the next, so to speak, and not being motivated by this, then such a service, the Alter Rebbe says, remains below in Elam HaPirud, in the world of separation, called a world of externalities. In other words, it doesn't reach to the divine attributes, which is the internal aspects of each world. But it doesn't have the power to rise there and to be absorbed into God's unity, meaning into the 10 divine attributes, his divine attributes. As the Zohar says, without love and awe of God, it does not fly upward and cannot rise to stand before God. So, what does it mean to live by rote, which often can happen to us, is we do things just because it's there before you, because it's part of the schedule, because it's routine, you're used to it, and we do it without being motivated by something greater. In other words, to connect to Hashem. Which I would suggest that's not at all anybody who's coming here, that they're just doing it out of routine, out of rote. And sure not. But it can happen sometimes. It might be that way. So the fact that we have an awareness that the reason why I'm engaging in learning right now, or for that matter, any mitzvah, is in order that I can connect to Hashem. The fact that that's the reason, that's the motivation. Well, where's that coming from? It's coming from the hidden love that we have in our soul that wants to connect to God. It is connected to God. Having that awareness then means that we're motivated by that, even if we're not feeling it. If we're feeling it with a love and awe in our hearts, and that was produced because of our understanding of our relationship and the greatness of God, even better. If not, it's still powerful. It's a powerful thing that we have that motivation. Now, does that mean we actually have to think it? Definitely better. But the truth is, we need to ask ourselves what is motivating us. If the motivation is only to become a better person, even though that's of course got great value, no doubt, but it's not really the intended purpose. This is not a self-help book, although it does help the self. It is a book about serving Hashem, to serve God. So when we understand that, and we have that intention, so then that will allow the mitzvah to rise. All right, questions, comments? 2 question marks before you ask a question. Joshua, what about Mincha, which has no Suki de Zimra? Good question, Josh. So it seems to me that when we're coming to Mincha, we're going, like, we're just saying Ashrei, Kabbalah Ashrei, and we're going right to the Amida. I don't know. I have to look into that. Good question, Joshua. I don't have an answer to that. By the way, this siddur, can you purchase it? Kahot.org. As I mentioned before, Kahot, KEHOT.org. Someone can put that up. That would be great. So you can get that. Okay. Good question. Okay. Erica, do the Psalms reach all the way to Atzilus? I mean, potentially anything and everything can. But this is the order of prayer, going up the rungs of the ladder. I mean, everything can, yes. Okay. Oh, thank you, Michael. You put up the Kahat. Okay, beautiful. Yeah, maybe you can get it on Amazon also. That's true. Andrew, if you engage in Torah study and mitzvahs but never reach complete kavanah, is there no reward at the end? So remember, what's the reward over here? That it's going up to the divine attributes. So, okay, thank you, Andrew. So let's make sure we have clarity over here in the point. When you do a mitzvah, in the act of the mitzvah, you are bound up with God, period. But bound up with God doesn't mean it's illuminated. Illuminated means that there's some kind of eternity to it, some kind of experience to it. In the moment you're bound up, right? So in the moment of learning now, the moment of prayer, in that moment you're bound up with God. Not the next moment. Next moment, well, it depends what you're doing. If you're doing a mitzvah then, right? Or you're doing something that's a prep to a mitzvah, right? Like you're eating in order to have strength so you could do your next mitzvah. So then that allows you to be bound up, something we learned in chapters 36 and 37. But being bound up doesn't mean it's illuminated. It doesn't mean that that you had an experience in it. Your soul is bound up. You're bound up. But it's something greater than you that you know. So there's a value, for example, going on the street and finding a Jew and asking, are you Jewish? Did you put on tefillin today? And put on tefillin on the street or wherever. Even on the street, I mean to say. Wherever it is. Why? Because in the act, there's a connection, period. Now, that doesn't mean it's illuminated. Maybe the person's just doing you a favor. But after, if the motivation has because of the hidden love that you have, and that's what motivates you, right? Excuse me, there's some kind of awareness of that. So now it's an illuminated mitzvah. There's some kind of experience that you have a connection to. Maybe the more you're refined and you have a connection to your soul, that you will experience some of that. And it will be eternal because that experience will now rise up to the divine attributes, something we're going to learn more about, and have an eternity to it, which we're going to speak more about that tomorrow. So that's just, but is there, that's what's called reward. Reward means the consequence of the mitzvah. But there is a fact of the mitzvah beyond the consequence. What is it? In the act, you're bound up with God. Now, for it to have a consequence, meaning reward, That's consequence. Reward is consequence of what you did. That's a direct consequence. So it depends on your motivation. There, kavanah matters. Intent matters. What motivated you? Was it your awareness that produced a love for this? Or was it just the inherent love that your soul has? That's the issue here. I hope that brought clarity. Okay. Denise, when the tribes received the law blessing in this world, it was received with humility and their awareness of their purpose for what Hashem desires. When Mashiach comes, will we know our purpose? We should know our purpose now. Don't wait for Mashiach. Right? If we live with Mashiach now, we'll know our purpose. No question about it. Promise you. Okay, Lori, why is our love of Hashem hidden? Is it because Hashem is hidden? Good question, Lori. No, because we have a body and an animal soul that is our first responder in life, right? The first thing in life when I see something, I see physicality. I'll see somebody, oh, big nose. Oh, must be Jewish. No, just kidding. First you see the physicality of the person. First you hear something, on surface level. Then you have to dig deeper. What was meant by that, right? So our relationship in the world is to the exterior first, and we have to dig deeper in all things, right? So likewise in me, the hidden love that I have for Hashem is in the interior of my soul. Overlaying that, so to speak, in the sense that it is my primary responder or primary, what's the word I'm looking for? Primary thing that I'm engaged with in my life is my animal soul and body. And so therefore it's hidden. Therefore it has to emerge. I have to, if I just live on autopilot, then my natural being of the animal soul and body is I'm going to live with, right? I'm not going to live with something deeper. With my soul. So in that sense, it's hidden. In the same way that God is hidden in the world. So yeah, there is a correlation there, Lori. Very good question. Thank you. Okay, David, is the reward of the mitzvah another mitzvah? Yes, but that's not the meaning over here. A deeper meaning, the reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself, meaning the consequence of the mitzvah. Were the patriarchs and matriarchs on auto? No. Patriarchs and matriarchs on autopilot in serving Hashem was they're always connected to Hashem. They're always connected to Hashem. They were not on autopilot because autopilot is, in a sense, they were autopilot because in a divine way. When we're on autopilot, it's because we are lost the divine soul's desire and wish, what it wants to do. So autopilot usually means we're just following the body and the animal soul's desire. That's usually autopilot. But by the patriarchs, matriarchs, it was the divine. For those living under constant criticism of mitzvahs and divinity, how can we stay focused and be encouraged? Rachel asks. In the previous class, we spoke about who you are, and that we are worthy, we are good, we are loving, we are a divine soul. No one can take that away. No one. No one can take that away. So No one who will ridicule you for the good that you do can take away the good and take away who you are. More on that, Rachel, will be when we have our community, the Tanya Rabbi community, the TRC, coming after Pesach. If you have the correct motivation and are seeking, and Torah is your whole life, how can we respond to the discouraging from others? Sometimes just be you. Just be you. That's what I suggest. Just be you. And have no fear in knowing that being you is the most beautiful thing there is. Right? And who's you? Who's you? Well, some people choose their animal soul to be them, meaning they live to eat. They live to, the comic lives to make a joke, usually at the expense of someone else. Or you could be whole and be you, meaning your divine soul. Being your divine soul, that's you. And you're whole, you're complete, you're perfect, you're worthy. So no one can discourage you. And when you really know that and live that, you will never be this. I mean, yes, there will be challenges and there'll be moments of maybe where, but on the whole, will be a power. Will be a power. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you. Michael, please share from today's teachings. Tomorrow's teachings will be tomorrow. But from today's, not to go further.
Can I read the page Tanya before I do the morning prayer? When we can waste kavana to intellectual study, can I then put the morning prayers a little bit later and study before I pray?
So first of all, morning blessings that we have to do because we have to do the blessings over the Torah, right, in order that we can study Torah. So that's the first thing of order. And on the contrary, it is a beautiful thing to study Tanya or any Hasidic teachings in particular. It can be any part of Torah, but particularly Hasidic teachings that's speaking about God before your prayers, because then that's going to get you in a good headspace and a good space in general for your prayers. So on the contrary, that's a beautiful thing to do, Michael, to be there to arrive, to climb the ladder in this most healthiest way. Yeah, so on the contrary, power to you. Shikoyach. You'll be able to climb the ladder much better. As I see myself, I learn before davening usually, for mostly every day. And yeah, it definitely gets you into a good headspace. You're able then to focus better as a result. 100%. Thank you, Michael, for sharing. Beautiful. All right, folks. A reminder, 1 o'clock Rambam, and tonight, also 6:30. Come and join us. We're going to be learning. All of that takes place on Zoom, 770-6085, 6085. Come and join. It's good stuff. It's great stuff. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad, Zichron Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a good Vach, a wonderful week, and a great day. Be well. Thank you for